Welcome to Financials with Ahau. It's a joy to be together with you again as we continue on the Making Well series and focusing on education planning. And today we are going to talk about the end result, which is how it pays off. Throughout these past few sessions, we've just been looking at what does it mean to prepare in terms of education for our children, for the next generation? What does it mean to have things in place? What would we need to think about? What are the places we could look into? And how could we even just be diligent that, God forbid, we may be away for whatever reason, health reason, work reason, death, and we have to ensure that these young people stay within the path that we had desired for them. And today I want us to just think through how it pays off. And the beauty of this is it's not really a session of what we should do, but it's more of an encouragement that when we do put into plan, when we do put into good thought how we want the education of our children, of the next generation to play out, then we do reap the effects. So I'll share different stories that people have told me that really worked with them. The first was a lady I met when I was younger, and she just happened to pick up this conversation with me about her children. She had just had her first daughter. And she told me, by the way, how this child, when I was young, at around 23, I met a lady who was talking about education plans. So she just told me, I'm young, I've started in a very good place in my career. Instead of getting into the habit of spending all my money, why don't I take an education plan? And by God's grace, she obeyed or she followed through and she started an education plan. And this child she was getting almost 6 years later. So you can imagine, fast forward, this is money that has been earning for the last 6 years, even before her first child came through. And you could see she had such a level of peace, she had such a level of preparedness, and she was even getting ready to take additional covers because now she had come into the place of having her children. And fast forward, she now has 3 children, and you can tell that she is very settled. It's not a place that her mind is constantly going back and forth with, just because at a very young age, she started to put aside this particular amounts. So that's one. The second one is a mother, and this mother found herself in a place where she was a key breadwinner in her family. And that meant that every time fees and just things to do with school came up, it was quite a run for her. But she decided for the period that her children will be going to school, she's going to put a lot of things on hold. Not because they were not valuable, but because she felt it was very important for her to pursue the best option she had for her children. So she would take out credit facilities that she could manage to pay within a given period of time. She would take the children into education in a way that would allow her to pay off from time to time. She would minimize the things that engaged in to ensure that there was disposable income to cover the education of her children. So she was always a step ahead, even if she had to put in a lot of planning and thought and work. And I remember one of the things she forestalled was her own academic advancement. So until her last child had gone off and she really felt settled is when she went back to school. But the faithfulness of God is that when she went back to school, she finished the qualification she needed to do and even moved to be promoted. And these children did well. All of them have gone through their primary, their secondary in good schools, their high school, they finished their undergrad. One has already proceeded to do his master's. The other one has flown abroad and is just settling in her life. And you see how it was quite a task for her to do, but she put in what she needed to do, and now she's reaping the effect. And the other one was a young lady again, just come into marriage, and she began to think through what would she like her the academic life of her family to look like. And at that point, again, for her, she didn't take any plan, but she set aside an account and started keeping aside a certain amount. So this is a child who she's planning for. So she hasn't even had this child yet, but she started to put aside the amount faithfully, building the habit. So fast forward 6 years later, this child has come. This child is now ready to start school. And believe it or not, she's starting the child off very comfortable. The fees for the first term is already settled, everything she needs to do, the registration, and it's given her time to ease into paying for the next years that are going to come for that child education. And when I think through these three scenarios, it really emphasizes the importance of what we are, the importance, value of what we're talking about. It may look like, everything can work out, but there's a place of the diligence we put in it. And being a person of faith, I strongly say and trust that every child comes with their own provision. So we need to be diligent in how we're ensuring that provision is able to last through. 1 week ago, I was listening to a very interesting session by a leading investment firm in the country. And they were talking about an experience that a family had where sadly the sole breadwinner passed away. But as he passed away, he had left a certain amount to care for the family. So when the family was given the amount, thankfully they were wise. So they said, let's find an investment advisor before we just think through our living expenses and run this money out. So the moment they sat with the investment advisor, the children were below 6 years old. So meaning there's primary, secondary, university. So the investment firm sat with them, talked with them through the money, asked them to put a certain amount in that would begin to earn and begin to spend off the earnings and not what had been left. And that's what they did. And fast forward, they have educated each of these children who are left behind. Those who are being cared for by this person have continued to receive the support they got, and that fund is still earning to date. It's one of those places you sit back and you say, it looks like in the moment of planning and starting it off, it will take time. But when you think through the long-term effect, you just tell yourself, this is the best thing I could ever have done. So I want to encourage us to really make it a priority as we think through our finances, how we are going to put this in, to really make it something key that we are going to make as part of our planning, so that we can truly work towards accomplishing our deliverables. Keep writing, keep planning, keep desiring to do it so that you do it well. I look forward to continuing this conversation as we work towards actioning the education plan for our children and seeing them live out the life we desire for them. Thank you for listening. Talk to you soon again. It's a